Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and before we get into this topic, I just want to say politics will almost certainly be discussed in this video. There's just probably no way to get around it. We are talking about COVID-19. We are talking about Uber's response to COVID-19, so if you do not like hearing opinions that you might not agree with, if you are offended by opinions you might not agree with, if you are so fragile that you cannot listen to someone else's point of view without shriveling up in a ball and saying, "No, he has a different point of view. I have to do something like tap in the keyboard. How stupid he is." You know what? You might want to leave. These videos, I'm open to discussion, civil discussion, but yeah, politics are probably unavoidable considering the situation, and by the time I've ended this video conversation, you've watched long enough for this to count as a view, which means I got paid, so I frankly don't care whether you stay or not anymore. But that said, let's talk about Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi and his response to the COVID-19 vaccination and what he's requesting, because it's one of those classic examples of Uber pretending that they care about their drivers and their customers when really they're just caring about their bottom line. Now, here's the thing. Thankfully, a COVID-19 vaccination by Pfizer has officially been approved. In fact, by the time this video goes up, they will likely have started distributing the vaccinations and people will have started receiving them. Now, there is a pecking order, if you will, to how people are to receive the vaccination. If you are a doctor, first responder, something like that, you get it first. If you're the elderly people, then you get it second. If you are an essential worker, we're talking about, grocery store clerks and things like that, you get it third. You get that fourth if you're an essential worker. If you've got an underlying health condition, you probably get it third. So that means my wife will probably get it by the spring. And then, of course, if you're perfectly healthy like me, you will get it last. Well, here's the thing. Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi has asked that Uber drivers be given early access to the vaccination because they are essential. And you can't make this stuff up. So here's the article from Newsweek. Uber boss Dara Khosrowshahi has been criticized after asking for his contract-based drivers to get early access to COVID vaccines. The CEO of the ride-hailing and food delivery giant confirmed on Thursday that he sent letters to the governors of all U.S. states asking them to classify his drivers as essential workers, meaning they would be higher up on the priority list of vaccine recipients. Well, really, Dara, are they essential? Are they? Because if they are essential, maybe you wouldn't fight so hard to give them their rights, to give them their benefits. Why don't you give them health benefits and dental? Why don't you give them time off? Why do you force them to drive how many hours a week, like 70, 80, whatever, just to make barely above minimum wage? Like, no. The drivers are not essential. They're not getting overtime. Like, I can't make this argument anymore. Dara doesn't care. Like, if his drivers are essential, he's certainly not treating them like they are essential, and he spends lots of money to fight their interests every step of the way. And then, of course, he convinces them to fight against their own interests, which, by the way, that's on you guys. That's totally on you guys. This is why I kind of stopped talking about most of what Uber does, because you know what? You're not willing to help yourselves. But when the Uber boss talks about something this stupid, well, I just have to comment. And also, I'm going to argue, and this is where you guys are going to get very... Uber drivers are not essential. They are not even close to being essential. Before the pandemic hit, the vast majority of Uber drivers were there to pick up your bratty kids from school, which aren't being held in person for the most part at the moment, and to drive people home from bars because they were too lazy to call a taxi. Well, maybe not too lazy. They did call an Uber, but that's basically most of the people. Well, the bars are closed, so that's not an issue right now. The kids are, for the most part, not going to in-person classrooms, so that's not an issue anymore. If you say, oh, but we drive people to the hospital when they need to be, you know what? That's what ambulances are for. And it's actually kind of scary how many people who are like actually bleeding and stuff like that, they call an Uber instead of a ambulance, which is a whole problem that we have discussed before in the past. But Uber drivers are not essential. You're not essential. I'm sorry. It's just a fact. Anyway, while distribution is largely being handled at a local and state level, officials have said that healthcare workers and those in higher risk categories will be first in line, which definitely excludes Uber drivers because they are not healthcare workers. And while they are technically in a higher risk category, Uber and Lyft is a luxury. It's not a demand and it's not essential. So there's nothing about this that would fly. In a letter to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, seen by Reuters, Karashahi pitched the drivers as a lifeline to their communities and encouraged the politician to recognize the essential nature of their work while drawing up state distribution plans. What does lifeline to their communities mean? Seriously, what does that mean in this scenario? You want to know what the lifeline in my community has been? Zoom, because we can talk to one another. Also, to a certain extent, YouTube, because making YouTube videos have kept me from going insane these last 8 months, but whatever. Now, in a tweet on Thursday that has since been widely bashed on a social network, the CEO said these frontline workers should get the vaccination before people like me. Now, again, he's wording it in a way where it's like, I care about you, but again, his workers, his drivers, are going to keep his business running. Thus, he's going to continue making money. Thus, he can stay in his mansion really as long as he wants. So, his tweet says in full, I'm asking governors in all 50 states plus DC to prioritize drivers and delivery people for early vaccine access. And then he points below, these frontline workers should get the vaccination before people like me. Well, I agree that they should get the vaccination before people like you, but not before, doctors and, people who have compromised immune systems. So, his appeal did not go down too well, with Karashahi facing a barrage of comments blasting his company's efforts to keep drivers as contractors, not staff. As one Twitter user wrote, Michael DeCourt, you can't pay a living wage while you, executives and early shareholders, make more than enough to offset shot costs. But you can ask for shots so you can ensure the millions keep that revenue going. And user T_Nell said, hey, remember when you spent many, many millions of dollars to avoid giving those same employees health insurance? It was last month. Yeah. As reported in so here are some of the tweets. They should also get a livable wage and health insurance. And Patrick Claiborne said, people like you should provide worker benefits ? Rich Swinton said, I have an idea. Why don't you give them health insurance? Probably wearing a mask forever, which no, we won't be wearing a mask forever, said, is it covered under the health insurance you don't provide? Ooh, ouch. Wordsmith probably wearing a mask forever. And wait until 2020 is off, then slowly power up 2021. Love that one says, wow, it's almost like they're employees or something. Almost. So, Uber, which has a market capitalization of more than $95 billion as of today, I don't know why, has been contacted by Newsweek for comment about the vaccination request letters. The company has around 236,000 drivers working in Florida amid the COVID panic. The state has over 1 million licensed healthcare professionals and expects to initially secure between 500,000 to 1 million doses of the vaccination. So, basically, Uber wants those early vaccinations to go to the Uber drivers that he doesn't treat well, doesn't pay enough, and denies health benefits. Wonderful. According to WJCT, Karashahi wrote in his letter to state governors, over the last 9 months, these workers have been a lifeline in their communities. They have transported healthcare workers to hospitals, delivered food to people socially distancing at home, and helped local restaurants stay in business. Not very much, though, especially when Uber, Grubhub, and DoorDash take 35% of the bill, which is usually how much the restaurant's profit turns out to. So I would actually argue that they took advantage of the restaurants. And as for transporting healthcare workers to hospitals, well, healthcare workers should probably be driving themselves, and they probably can if they don't have Uber. Now he says, as you finalize your state level allocation and distribution plans, I encourage you to recognize the essential nature of their work. I want to ensure these individuals can receive immunizations quickly, easily, and for free, and I offer Uber's assistance. Of course he's going to offer Uber's assistance. Again, this isn't about protecting the drivers or the community. This is about keeping Uber's operation running, and heck, maybe even getting Uber's operation back on track, since it would be a great coup for Uber as a company to be able to publicly say, hey, our drivers are vaccinated. You do not have to worry about an unvaccinated driver. And if a driver can't get vaccinated, well, temporary deactivation for sure. And I think that's the end of the article. So yeah, this Papadara, as he was called in that Super Pumped book, does it again. Once again, looking out for the company first and foremost while using the drivers as a shield for looking out for his own company. Again, in a sense, he is a very good CEO for Uber if you are a shareholder. He does do his darndest to make it look like Uber does the right thing. They care about the drivers and they don't care about the suits. But this is about stockholders. This is about the companies. This is about Uber running as a business. Uber drivers are not essential. They never were. Uber has always been like a luxury. They don't help the restaurants that he claims. In fact, they usually hurt the restaurants. Restaurants cannot wait to get away from Uber, DoorDash, and Grubhub and start delivering their own food or having people come back in. They don't want to use this food delivery anymore. Uber didn't help them stay in business. And, you know, I'm sorry. It just doesn't, and people should not be using Ubers as their link to the hospitals. They just shouldn't. So, of course, I'm not surprised at all. I'm really not surprised by this. This is something that Uber totally does. And it's the kind of stuff that I get so tired of talking about, and hence I pull back for a little bit. But once in a while, they do something stupid enough that it's like, you know, shoot, screw it. I'm just going to talk about it. So anyway, that's Dar Khosrowshahi basically begging to be first in line, or one of the first in line, for the vaccination. And even though he said these people deserve it more than me, my response to that is, yeah, no kidding. No one disagreed with that or thought that you should get it before them in the first place. But they don't deserve it more than these other people. But that said, I would like to know what you think about this. Do you agree with this comments? Do you disagree? What do you think of my take? Sorry, this got a little political. I know some of you probably don't believe in the vaccination. I mean, look, you're allowed to comment. I don't care. But I would like to know everyone else's opinion, though. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Merry Christmas.